Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we unpack the wild world of corporate finance and find out if companies are really as healthy as they say they are. Today we are diving deep into AbbVie's 2025 10K filing. And folks, this one is a doozy, especially when it comes to their financials. AbbVie is a giant in the pharmaceutical world known for its immunology, neuroscience, oncology, and aesthetics products. But how are they really doing financially, and what does this report tell us about their future? Let's find out. First off, before we crunch any numbers, if you love getting these sorts of insights from real company filings, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And for more real-time discussions and to connect with fellow finance enthusiasts, join our Discord community linked in the description below. Now let's get into AbbVie's 2025 performance. AbbVie is rewarding its shareholders with a dividend increase. This is generally a good sign, a company feeling confident about its future earnings and cash flow. They are returning more money to investors, which is often seen as a positive signal of financial health and stability. Let's talk numbers. In 2025, AbbVie brought in a total of $61.2 billion in net revenue. That is a significant amount of money. Looking at their current assets, which are things they expect to turn into cash within a year, they have about $29 billion. That is a pretty healthy chunk of quick assets. And overall, their total assets clock in at a massive $134 billion. This includes everything the company owns, property, equipment, and of course all those valuable patents and drug rights. Now moving on to how they are making and spending their money. From their main business operations, AbbVie generated $19 billion in cash in 2025. This is the cash coming in from actually selling their drugs and products. It shows their core business is bringing in a lot of cash. However, when it comes to investing activities, they spent about $6.6 billion. This often means they are buying other companies, acquiring new drug pipelines, or investing in new facilities. It is a big outflow, but it is for growth. And on the financing side, they actually spent a huge $12.7 billion. This typically involves paying back debt, issuing new shares, or paying dividends and repurchasing their own stock. It seems they paid off quite a bit of debt and also bought back a lot of their own shares. Let us look at the product revenue breakdown for some context. In the immunology sector, Skyrizi is a massive success, bringing in $17.6 billion in revenue in 2025. This is a huge jump of about 50% from the previous year, showing strong growth in this area. Rinvoq, another immunology drug, also showed impressive growth with revenues of $8.3 billion, a nearly 40% increase. These two drugs are clearly powering AbbVie's revenue growth. But on the flip side, Humira, which was once a flagship product, saw its revenues drop significantly by almost 50%. This is largely due to competition from biosimilars, meaning cheaper versions of the same drug are now available. This is a common challenge for many big pharma companies. In neuroscience, Vraylar brought in $3.6 billion in revenue, a healthy increase of about 11%, indicating good performance in this segment as well. And in aesthetics, Botox Cosmetics saw revenues drop by about 4%. This was mainly due to pricing changes and lower consumer demand in the United States, though international sales were up slightly. In oncology, Imbruvica's global revenues decreased by about 14%, largely due to lower demand and pricing issues in the United States. Now let's check out the costs associated with all this. AbbVie's gross margin, which is the profit they make after accounting for the cost of producing their goods, remains strong at 70% of net revenue. This is a good indicator that they are managing their production costs efficiently. Their selling, general, and administrative expenses were $14 billion, which as a percentage of revenue went down compared to the previous year. This is generally positive, showing better cost control in sales, marketing, and administration. Research and development spending was about $9.1 billion. This is a large investment in future growth. It is interesting to note that R&D expenses as a percentage of revenue decreased significantly from 23% in 2024 to 15% in 2025. This is partly due to impairment charges in the prior year, but it still signals a shift in investment focus. And speaking of investment, their acquired IPRD and milestones expense jumped quite a bit to over $5 billion. This really highlights the aggressive acquisition strategy AbbVie is pursuing, especially with the big payoffs for Nimble Therapeutics, Cerevel Therapeutics, Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals, Ichnos, Glenmark Innovation, and Adax. These are significant investments in future products. Let's talk about debts and risks. AbbVie carries a substantial amount of long-term debt totaling nearly $65 billion. While this is a large number, it is not uncommon for companies of this size, especially those engaged in significant acquisitions. They seem to be managing this debt through strong cash flow and refinancing. Their income tax expense was about $2.4 billion. The effective tax rate itself can be a bit confusing, fluctuating due to various international tax laws and business activities. But what is important to note is the company's ability to navigate these complexities. Now for the risks. AbbVie faces significant risks related to patent expirations and competition from biosimilars. As we saw with Humira, losing patent protection can lead to a sharp decline in revenue. They are also heavily reliant on Skyrizi and Rinvoq, which together accounted for 42% of their net revenue in 2025. If these key products face unexpected challenges or increased competition, it could have a major impact. On the bright side, their cybersecurity risks have not materially affected their business so far. They seem to have robust systems in place, but as they rightly point out, there is always a risk of future breaches impacting their operations. So what is my take on all this? AbbVie is clearly in a period of aggressive growth driven by strategic acquisitions and the strong performance of its newer products like Skyrizi and Rinvoq. They are successfully transitioning away from reliance on Humira by investing heavily in new pipelines, both internally and through external deals. Their financials show strong operational cash flow, which is crucial for funding these ambitious strategies and rewarding shareholders. However, the substantial debt load and the growing reliance on a few key products like Skyrizi and Rinvoq do present risks. The sharp rise in acquired IPRT and milestone expenses shows a high-stakes game of betting on future drug success. The decline in Humira sales is a stark reminder of the competitive pressures in the pharmaceutical industry and the constant need for innovation. The company's ability to successfully integrate its acquisitions and bring newly acquired pipeline assets to market will be critical. The legal risks, particularly around Niaspan and opioid litigation, are also worth keeping an eye on, although the company states these are not expected to have a material adverse effect. Overall, AbbVie appears to be navigating a dynamic market with a clear growth strategy focused on its newer blockbuster drugs and aggressive pipeline investment. The financial health looks solid, underpinned by strong operational cash flow despite the significant debt and acquisition-related expenses. The key will be continued successful product development and managing the life cycle of their key revenue drivers. Alright, that is our breakdown of AbbVie's 2025 filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching, see you next time.